Hello, my friend. Welcome back. Today, let us explore one simple idea that can completely change the way you approach your goals. Is there something you truly want to become good at? Perhaps you want to speak English fluently, become more confident, communicate clearly, build a healthier body, learn a difficult subject, grow in your career, or create a better life. Most of us carry dreams like these. We want to improve, but dreaming about improvement and actually improving are two very different things. Many people believe success requires extraordinary talent, endless motivation, expensive resources, or one perfect opportunity. So they wait. They wait for the right time, the right teacher, the right mood, or the day they finally feel confident. But real improvement usually begins in a much simpler way. It begins with daily practice. Not one huge effort. Not one perfect performance. Not one exciting day filled with motivation. It begins with one small action, repeated again and again. When we look at successful people, we usually see only the final performance. A wonderful singer appears naturally gifted. A confident speaker seems as if he has always been fearless. A fluent English speaker makes learning look easy. But the finished result hides the long process behind it. Skill is rarely born in one dramatic moment. It is usually built in private, through ordinary days that nobody celebrates. Imagine a musician performing before a large audience. The lights are bright, the hall is silent, and every note sounds effortless. When the performance ends, everyone stands and applauds. People call it talent. But they did not see the musician practicing alone for years. They did not see the wrong notes, the tired hands, the frustration, or the countless repetitions. They did not see the mornings when the musician did not feel like practicing, but did it anyway. They saw the result, not the routine that created it. This pattern appears everywhere. The confident speaker once struggled to organize simple sentences. The athlete once became tired after only a few minutes. The skilled writer once stared at an empty page without knowing what to write. The fluent English speaker once made basic mistakes and felt nervous in conversation. Talent may make the beginning easier, but it cannot replace patience, discipline, repetition, and consistent effort. A talented person who never practices may eventually be overtaken by an ordinary person who practices every day. Think about a child learning to walk. The child stands, loses balance, and falls. Then the child stands again and falls again. This may happen many times in one day, yet the child never says, "Walking is not my talent." The child does not compare himself with adults or feel embarrassed. He simply continues. Slowly, the legs become stronger, balance improves, and the brain and body learn to work together. One day, walking becomes natural. The same process applies to speaking English or learning any other skill. At first, speaking may feel uncomfortable. You may need time to find the right words. Your pronunciation may not sound perfect. You may make mistakes and feel nervous. But every sentence teaches your brain something. Every mistake gives you useful information. Every attempt makes the next attempt slightly easier. You may not notice the improvement immediately, but your mind is learning. Practice does not always have to be long. It simply has to be regular. Many people practice for 3 or 4 hours on one day, then do nothing for the next 2 weeks. They become exhausted and lose interest. A better approach is 10, 15, or 20 focused minutes every day. Daily practice keeps the skill active in your mind. It creates rhythm. It teaches your brain that this activity is part of normal life. Improvement is often difficult to notice from one day to the next. You may practice today and feel almost the same tomorrow. That does not mean nothing is happening. Imagine placing one small drop of water into a container every day. At first, the container still looks empty. But the water is slowly accumulating. Eventually, the change becomes obvious. Skill develops in the same way. After 30, 60, or 100 sessions, you will not be the same person. So do not ask, did I become excellent today? Ask, did I practice today? Excellence is not created in one session. It is created when you keep returning to the work. We often underestimate small actions because they do not feel exciting. Reading one page does not feel like finishing a book. Learning 5 words does not feel like fluency. Exercising for 10 minutes does not feel like fitness. Saving a small amount does not feel like security. But small actions gain power through accumulation. Suppose you learn 5 new English words every day. 5 words may not seem impressive. After 1 week, that becomes 35 words. After 1 month, around 150. After 1 year, more than 1800. Even if you forget some, your vocabulary will still grow significantly. The daily action remained small, but the final result became large because the action was repeated. Small choices, repeated over time, can create results far greater than the original action. At the beginning, progress may seem painfully slow. This is where many people quit. They practice for a few days, expect a huge result, and become disappointed. But the problem is not always the action. Often, the expectation is unrealistic. A seed does not become a tree in 1 week. First, it absorbs water. Then it develops roots beneath the soil. For a while, nothing is visible above the ground. Yet that invisible work is necessary. Without strong roots, there can be no strong tree. Your early practice sessions are like those roots. They may not create visible success immediately, but they are building the foundation for future success. The first weeks are often the hardest because you are giving effort without receiving much evidence. You have to continue before the result becomes exciting. This requires trust. You must trust that repetition is building something, even when you cannot clearly see it yet. Consider 2 people who want to improve their English. One studies for 6 exhausting hours on a single day, then does nothing for the rest of the week. The other studies for 20 minutes every day. After several months, the second person is likely to make more stable progress because daily repetition keeps the brain connected to the language. English becomes part of everyday life instead of an occasional event. Small daily actions are also easier to maintain. A goal that feels too large creates resistance. Telling yourself, I must study for 3 hours tonight, may make you avoid starting. But saying, I will practice for 10 minutes, feels manageable. Your daily action could be reading 1 paragraph aloud, learning 5 useful words, listening to a short conversation, recording yourself for 2 minutes, or writing 5 sentences about your day. The action does not need to be impressive. It needs to be repeated. A single snowflake is light, but continuous snow can cover a city. A single drop of water seems powerless, but repeated drops can slowly reshape stone. One practice session may feel ordinary, but hundreds of sessions can completely transform your ability. Never disrespect a small action simply because it is small. Its real power is not in its size. Its power is in its repetition. Another problem is depending too much on motivation. Motivation feels wonderful. You watch an inspiring video, create a new routine, buy a notebook, and make a detailed plan. For 2 or 3 days, everything feels exciting. Then you become tired. The work feels repetitive. The excitement disappears. This is normal. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions change. If you practice only when you feel motivated, your progress will always be irregular. You need a routine that continues when your feelings change. Think about brushing your teeth. Most people do not wait for inspiration. They do it because the action is connected to a routine. Daily practice should become similar. Decide when and where it will happen. Practice English for 15 minutes after breakfast. Read aloud before bed. Listen while traveling. Write 5 sentences after dinner. When practice is attached to an existing routine, it becomes easier to remember and repeat. When you say, "I will practice sometime today," your mind finds many ways to delay. After lunch becomes evening. Evening becomes tomorrow. A specific routine ends this endless negotiation. Still, difficult days will come. On those days, do not demand perfect performance. Use the smallest version of your habit. If your normal session is 30 minutes, practice for 5. Read 1 paragraph. Speak for 1 minute. Review 3 words. The purpose is not huge improvement that day. The purpose is to protect the habit. This is how discipline develops. Discipline does not mean you always feel powerful. It means your actions are not completely controlled by temporary feelings. You can feel tired and still do something small. You can feel nervous and still begin. You can feel unprepared and still make an attempt. Many people wait to feel confident before taking action, but confidence usually comes after action. You speak repeatedly, survive the discomfort, notice your progress, and gradually become confident. The action creates the confidence. We also need to understand that the practice we avoid may be the practice we need most. We naturally enjoy activities that make us feel capable. A learner who is good at reading may keep reading. A learner who enjoys grammar may complete endless exercises. A comfortable listener may watch hours of videos. These activities can help, but sometimes we use our strengths to avoid our weaknesses. A learner may study grammar for years and still avoid speaking because speaking feels exposed, uncertain, and uncomfortable. Comfort and growth are not always the same thing. Real improvement often requires working directly on the area where you feel weak. For a language learner, that may mean speaking aloud. For a public speaker, practicing eye contact. For a writer, sharing work and receiving feedback. For a student, studying the chapter that feels most confusing. Avoidance gives short-term relief, but it creates long-term weakness. Every time you avoid a difficult task, your fear may grow stronger. But when you face the task in a small, controlled way, your brain learns a new lesson. This feels uncomfortable, but I can handle it. The first attempt may feel terrible. The 5th may still feel difficult. By the 20th, the fear may be much smaller. If you are afraid of speaking English, begin by speaking to yourself for 1 minute. Then record your voice. Then send a short message to a trusted friend. Then try a 5-minute conversation. Each step creates evidence that you can move forward. Discomfort during practice does not always mean you are doing something wrong. Sometimes, it means your brain is adapting to a new challenge. A muscle grows stronger by working against resistance. Skills develop in a similar way. When practice becomes completely effortless, you may need a slightly greater challenge. Ask yourself honestly, what part of my goal do I keep avoiding? What activity makes me nervous? Which weakness am I hiding behind my strengths? The answer may reveal your most important area of practice. There may also come a time when progress seems to stop. At the beginning, improvement feels fast. Every new word matters. Basic sentences create immediate excitement. But after weeks or months, the change becomes harder to notice. You may wonder whether the method is wrong or whether you are capable of reaching the next level. This stage is often called a plateau, a period when visible improvement slows down, even though learning and adaptation may still be continuing. A plateau is frustrating because we want proof that our effort is working. But it is not necessarily failure. At the beginning, moving from 10 words to 100 feels enormous. Later, moving from 3,000 words to 3,090 may feel almost invisible. Advanced improvement becomes more detailed. You may pause less, understand accents more easily, explain more complex ideas, or recover from mistakes more quickly. These changes are real, even when they are less dramatic. During a plateau, your brain may be strengthening existing knowledge, improving recall, increasing speed, and making skills more automatic. Imagine a tall building under construction. At some stages, the workers are strengthening the structure or installing systems inside. From outside, it may look as if progress has stopped, but essential work continues. Your learning journey also includes invisible construction. Do not compare only today with yesterday. Compare who you are now with who you were 3 or 6 months ago. Ask yourself, can I understand things that once confused me? Can I complete tasks more quickly? Am I less afraid than before? Long-term comparison often reveals progress that daily comparison hides. You may also need a slightly greater challenge, watch a short section without subtitles, explain a harder topic, or read something more advanced. Most importantly, be patient. The fact that you cannot see progress today does not prove that progress is absent. Think about a bamboo plant. For a long time, little may appear above the soil while a strong underground system develops. When the conditions are right, visible growth can happen quickly. What looks sudden is often the result of long, invisible preparation. Your breakthrough may also be developing beneath the surface. Continue watering the roots. Continue practicing. Continue adjusting. The plateau is not always a wall telling you to stop. Sometimes it is a quiet stage preparing you for the next part of the journey. When people begin practicing, they usually focus on the final result: fluency, strength, a published book, a better career. Those goals matter. But daily practice gives something deeper. It changes identity. If you practice English every day for 1 year, your vocabulary and confidence may improve. But you will also have kept a promise to yourself hundreds of times. You will have continued on easy days and difficult days, through visible progress and invisible progress. Through that process, you become more disciplined, patient, resilient, and comfortable with temporary failure. You learn that you can trust yourself to continue. These qualities are not limited to English. They can support your health, education, career, relationships, creativity, and personal growth. The skill may be the visible reward, but the character you build may be even more valuable. Consider a sculptor working with a large piece of stone. Every day, the sculptor removes a small amount. One strike does not create the statue. One day may not produce a visible difference. But thousands of careful movements gradually reveal a beautiful form. At the same time, the sculptor changes. The hands become more controlled, the eyes more observant, and the mind more patient. The process shapes both the stone and the sculptor. Daily practice does the same to you. Every time you practice instead of making an excuse, you strengthen self-discipline. Every time you continue after a mistake, you strengthen resilience. Every time you face discomfort, you strengthen courage. Every time you return after a difficult day, you strengthen commitment. You may forget individual practice sessions, but their effects remain inside your ability. Not every day needs to feel extraordinary. The goal is not a perfect session every day. The goal is to become a person who continues. Now think about one skill that truly matters to you. Do not choose 10 goals. Choose one. What would happen if you gave it 10 honest minutes every day? Not 10 minutes of pretending or checking your phone. 10 focused minutes. Imagine 1 month of practice. Imagine 6 months. Imagine who you could become in 1 year. You do not need to transform your entire life tonight. You only need to complete today's small action. Tomorrow, complete another one. Then continue. Some days will be easy. Some will test you. Sometimes you will feel motivated, and sometimes you will wonder whether your effort matters. In those moments, remember, the roots may be growing, the structure may be strengthening, and the separate pieces may be connecting. Your responsibility is to keep giving the process an opportunity to work. Do not wait for the perfect mood, complete confidence, full support, or the disappearance of fear. Begin while uncertain. Practice while imperfect. Continue while the results are still small. Great achievements often begin in quiet places. They begin in an empty room, with no audience and no applause. They begin when someone reads one more page, practices one more sentence, completes one more repetition, or makes one more attempt. Nobody may notice your practice today. That is okay. Practice is not performed for immediate applause. It is performed for future transformation. One day, people may admire your confidence, fluency, knowledge, or ability. They may call you talented. But you will know the truth. You will remember the ordinary days, the mistakes, and the moments when you wanted to stop but continued. You will know that your skill was not created by one magical opportunity. It was created by repeatedly showing up. So here is your challenge. Choose your skill. Choose your daily practice time. Choose the smallest action you can complete consistently. Then begin today. Not next week. Not when life becomes easier. Today. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be the best. You simply have to keep moving. One sentence. One page. One conversation. One workout. One attempt. One small day at a time. As those days accumulate, the work becomes easier, the fear becomes smaller, ability becomes stronger, and confidence becomes more natural. Most importantly, you become someone who knows how to continue. That is the quiet power of daily practice. It does not always announce itself. It does not always feel exciting. But it works through repetition, patience, and discipline. It works every time you choose to show up again. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this message reminded you that your small effort is not meaningless. You may be closer to a breakthrough than you realize. Keep learning. Keep practicing. Keep trusting the process. You do not need to change everything in one day. Complete today's practice, then return tomorrow and do it again. If this message encouraged you, share it with someone who is struggling to stay consistent, and join us for more lessons about English, confidence, personal growth, and habits that can transform your life. Your future ability is being built by what you practice today. See you in the next video.